What's up? What's going on? What's good, everybody? Boston Source here checking in. And we got this topic. It's a pretty hot topic over the past week as you had a recent result happen in the world of boxing for one particular fighter to become undisputed champion in a second division, and that guy is Naoya Inoue. He became the undisputed champion at 122 pounds with his stoppage win over Marlon Tapales. And, well, as we know, he has become two-time undisputed with championships in the bantamweight and now the super bantamweight division. So, the question is, should Inoue be considered as the fighter of the year or even number one pound for pound? And, well, I'll say he definitely has a case for either one of those things. Now, first up for Naoya Inoue is a case for fighter of the year this year in 2023. He had two wins this year. First against Stephen Fulton, where he stopped Stephen Fulton to become unified champion at super bantamweight. And as I recently mentioned, his win over Marlon Tapales to become the undisputed champion at super bantamweight. So he's had two big wins in the super bantamweight division after moving up from 118, where he was the undisputed champion after his win over Paul Butler last year. So he has those two big wins. Now, there are other candidates out there. Of course, you do have Terence Crawford with his performance against Errol Spence Jr. to become the undisputed welterweight champion. There's that. Now, you also have David Benavidez with his performance against Caleb Plant earlier this year, and in his latest victory over Demetrius Andrade to kind of like put himself as near the top or at the top of the super middleweight division. You also have Devin Haney, who defeated Vasyl Lomachenko to defend the undisputed championships at lightweight, then moving up to super lightweight to defeat Regis Prograis to become WBC super lightweight champion. And you also have Gervonta Davis that's out there that had wins over Hector Luis Garcia in January, and then in April against Ryan Garcia with the stoppage victory in Las Vegas. So you do have a number of candidates. But given what Naoya Inoue has done, particularly with his win over Stephen Fulton, that was something where you had, the guy that was, clear-cut number one there at 122. And that was Inoue's first bout at 122. And he was able to perform the way he did and get the stoppage victory, pretty much dominating Stephen Fulton in that particular case. And then his fight here recently against Marlon Tapales, pretty good little scrap. Pretty good scrap. Tapales, did his thing and was able to catch Inoue a couple of times, but Inoue was just too much for him, overwhelmed him, and was able to take over. So with those two performances, that makes Inoue have a strong case to be the 2023 fighter of the year. Now, you have the other part of the discussion. Pound for pound, number one pound for pound. Now, a number of people, or it's pretty much, almost universal, that the guy that would be on top, if it isn't Naoya Inoue, is Terence Crawford. Yep, Terence Crawford, who became two-division undisputed champion before Naoya Inoue was able to do it. Like I said, he had his win over Errol Spence Jr. Yep, he did. Now, the thing about it is, he's had wins over Errol Spence Jr., Kell Brook, Sean Porter, David Avanesian, what else? Jeff Horn, what was it? Jose Benavidez Jr., in the welterweight division. He had his wins over Victor Postal, Julius Ndongo in the super lightweight division, among others. They kind of like put him up there and had him be around the top 5, the top 3. And then, when he had his win over Errol Spence Jr., that kind of, solidified his place for many as the number one guy pound for pound. But as I mentioned with Naoya Inoue, he's faced number one guy after number one guy after number one guy in just about every division that he's been in, with the exception of one. And he's been able to, not only defeat the number one guy, but pretty much like dominate the number one guy in each of those divisions, And as far as like the next guy up, he's pretty much faced the next guy up in each of those divisions, or at least for many of those divisions, and still was able to, keep his undefeated streak, or at least be able to stop those opponents. And the thing about with Naoya Inoue is he does have pretty much like the same or similar qualities to Terence Crawford as far as like punch placement, foot movement, being able to read what his opponent's doing, in other elements to, kind of like have those similarities. But one thing that kind of like stands out for some when it comes to Naoya Inoue in comparison to Terence Crawford is the resume. As I mentioned, a number of the fights that Naoya Inoue has had in the multiple divisions have been against the top guy or the number two guy or whatever it is, in comparison with Terence Crawford, which, he did have his fights against Errol Spence. He did have his fights against, Julius Ndongo, who ended up being the number two guy at 140, and, the fight against Yuriorkis Gamboa at 135. But outside of that, some of the other matchups weren't necessarily around that, top 3 or top 5 or whatever it is. The fight against Sean Porter, I would say, is a top 5 opponent in the welterweight division. But you might have, a couple of other ones out there within the super lightweight division, and probably the lightweight division as well for Terence Crawford. But will it kind of like measure up or kind of like have him up there as far as like staying at number one? As currently in the boxing source, Terence Crawford is number one pound for pound, with Naoya Inoue in number 2. But you can still make that strong case for Naoya Inoue to be a number one pound for pound. But this is up to y'all. This is up to y'all. Who do y'all feel is the number one pound for pound man? Now, fighter of the year, that could be completely separate. But number one pound for pound, that, could be from this year and then combine last year and 2021, etc. So you could have, one guy as the fighter of the year and have another guy at number one pound for pound. Or you could have the same guy. But I'll leave it for y'all to decide. Who do y'all think is the number one pound for pound fighter in the sport? But I will post up who is the 2023 fighter of the year on Sunday, December 31st, on the podcast, the last podcast of 2023. So y'all be able to tune in to get the answer from the boxing source as to who is the 2023 fighter of the year, among other awards or other accolades that we will have. But be sure to tune in. Be sure to hit the like button to support this particular video. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe to the boxing source. We appreciate the support here on this channel. And with that, I'm out. Peace out.